Good afternoon and welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Thursday, February 9th, 2023. A big show today. We are going to talk about LeBron James. He is the now official king of scoring in the NBA. We're also going to talk a little NBA trade deadline, the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to talk YSU men's and ladies hoops. And we're also, obviously, it's Super Bowl weekend. So we're going to get plenty into the Super Bowl. We're going to talk Eagles Chiefs. We're going to talk about some of the storylines. And I went through and found some fun prop bets that I might make for this weekend. Joe and I will talk about that soon. But before we get into that, we have a guest that is going to that actually has called in. We're going to bring him on here in just a minute. So let me just give you a brief introduction of him. He is an OHSAA official, and I'm going to have him tell us about his background, and we're going to get into some of the details of why we are having him on. So his name is Warren Capps. So Warren, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Justin.
Awesome. Very good. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us, and give us a little bit of background on yourself and, in your route to becoming an official.
No problem. So I have been around the game of basketball for about 40-some years. I'm 56 years old. I played in high school. I played up through the Marine Corps. I've had a love of the game. My son has played up. He's 35 now. And I have been officiating in basketball for high school for the last 8 years. And one of the reasons I was drawn towards it was because of the need for more officials, seeing what was needed in the game, and then also my love of it. I did coach basketball. I had 3 Beacon Journal Players of the Year that played for me when they were younger in different sports. But my love of the game for basketball drove me to seek out to become an official. And some of the things I think we'll get ready to talk about in current events in Vermont have led me to, see how, more importantly, answers need to be found from a multifaceted approach.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned a military background there as well. So tell us a little bit about your personal background in the military.
Okay, so I was in the Marine Corps. I'm also actually a former police officer. I spent 17 years in law enforcement. So I'm familiar with holding position authority. I was called back after Desert Shield happened in shock and awe, if people can remember, during the Bush father administration when the planes were sent, and it was prior to Desert Storm. I was actually in the police academy and was called back for Desert Shield, which lasted 2 weeks, and it was scary and disruptive, but I experienced that, and then came back home to restart the police academy, and then I went into undercover narcotics in Cleveland, and then went on to work the rest of my career at the police department in Cuyahoga Falls.
Wow. Okay. So military, police force, narcotics, and now an official. So you have been in charge. And so you're not someone, or I should say you are someone that knows what's going on and not someone that's going to mess around at all.
So exactly, Justin. Yeah. And I would just say exactly. So seeking it out, and then the things I'm seeing, and I purposely stay. I'm qualified to do high school. Friday Night Lights is like I like to refer to it. But I've had several orthopedic surgeries, and I've got a little, giddy up to my hiccup. I see the game really well, but normally I'm doing like tomorrow night I have a JV boys game. But I really enjoy, which looks to be like a lot of the problems, middle school, and I enjoy working with young people, but some of the current events, especially the situation that happened in Vermont, there definitely is a real issue with what we're about to discuss. And, officials not wanting to officiate, and then parents' reactions, and then lack of control by coaches. And so, sorry, I'll let you go.
No. I mean, you're touching all the main talk points there, which is great because, as you mentioned, recently in Vermont, and you actually let me know about this story. I wasn't quite aware of it until you had told me. But there was kind of an on-court brawl because of, I don't know exactly how it started, but it led to kind of a fight on the court, and a 60-year-old man ends up later dying basically from being involved in the fight. So, it's just really unfortunate that, spectators can't just be spectators. They want to insert themselves in the game some way, shape, or form. And that's too bad. And I'm sure you see that from time to time as an official. And that's actually how you caught my attention, because sort of I don't want to say a viral picture, but a semi-viral picture of you went around, basically asking a spectator to leave because they were becoming a little too much. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I can. If I could touch on just for a minute, another experience I had over the past, I would say 30 years.
Yeah.
It was an incident where I was aware of an individual, and it was a highly publicized local event during a girls' softball tournament. And I happened to graduate from Copley High School, and a tournament was being held out there. Well, similarly, a death occurred as a result of two adult men
right.
who got into an altercation, and it was forever life-changing, and a death occurred. And so I was aware of, and that was when I was a police officer, and seeing the ramifications and seeing the fallout of what happens. And then my experience of being a police officer for nearly 20 years and understanding the fallout, like I like to describe it, is people are forgetful of the aftermath of criminal charges and civil lawsuits and their conduct, and forgetting about the fact of what really the purpose of being at a sporting event is about. And they do a lot of times people forget and become emotional and forget about the realities that surround the potential consequences of what can happen by being, out of line. Or when you say that particular incident, it was late in the fourth quarter, and that particular team was winning by 10. And just listen to this. It was a father and a mother on the first row in a freshman basketball game. And my wife happens to be a 21-year teacher at this particular school district who follows me around, and we're gym rats, and she's the coach. And so we're just, our love of the game and sports, but just understanding, and I don't ever ask who anyone is, but these two particular people in reference to their son playing, and like I said, they were up by 10. I had just heard enough, and it was very abrasive. It was out of line, and they were, in my estimation, which, I've seen a lot in my career, in many different ways, totally out of line. And so that was just enough to let them know that you're going to leave the gym if I hear one more word.
Good.
And I don't have a problem with, sending that message, because you have to keep a firm control over the situation, or you'll have things go sideways quickly. And that's where, officials, police officers, school site directors, athletic directors, that's where you see these brawls take place. And once again, when we get to that, I think that a lot more pre-planning and not taking for granted, things by the numbers, like I always like to say. Even though it's a middle school game, it's always helpful to know who the site director is, or an athletic director, or if it's got some potential to, you've got some kind of heated rivalry, or like even a championship middle school game, which, I just did one of those for the girls in 7th grade the other day. And things get heated, and it can go sideways if you don't keep firm control.
Yeah. And I don't mean to laugh, but it is almost comical to a point that, everyone loves their kids. Everyone wants their kids to do well, but there is a time and a place and a line that need not be crossed. And a lot of times it's a parent or a relative that want to insert themselves, whether it's vicariously, or my kid's not playing enough, or this referee's not making the right call for my team. And, it's just, I think at the end of the day, people are forgetting you're spectators. You are a guest of this school. And, you need to be respectful of not just the game, but the players, the referees, the coaches, and whatnot. And I think that is so oftentimes forgotten.
And that's a great point, Justin. And to further that point is that it starts at home, it's taught, and then it's also a responsibility of a coach. Because I know when I coach,
yes.
And anyone that knows who I am with the Marine and where I stand, and I used to tell my players, you're not going to talk to the officials.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that. And there's a way to do that with certain types of etiquette and understanding. Like anything in life, when someone's talking to you, you kind of understand and expect that. And I've developed my own way of doing that with coaches, and there's acceptable and unacceptable. So you're exactly right with living vicariously. And then once again, seeing LeBron James locally and people that I associate with locally that's been a part of this game for 40, 50 years, and seeing professional athletes that are even retired now,
mm-hmm.
and seeing how they came up and then went into professional sports. Some of these parents need to remind themselves that, the realities are very likely that, hope that your child plays high school basketball. That's what I'm hoping for. But more realistically is if they don't, you're not going to be able to make a case for them being better because you're yelling at the official.
Right. Exactly. And at the end of the day, 99.9% of these kids are not going to a Division I school on a scholarship. They're not going to the NBA or NFL or whatever sport it might be. At the end of the day, the best thing you can teach these kids is be a good person, be a good citizen. And I think, like
That's
you
it.
said, from your former coaching, is, hey, I'll talk to the officials, I'll be respectful, you worry about you and handle what you can handle on the court.
And that's exactly right. And it's not, it could be debated whether I was, respectful or not. There's just an understanding of the role you're playing. But more importantly, and I know one of our local coaches here, Coach Rick Blevins at Wooders, who does a fantastic job and been in the varsity basketball coach there forever. It's one of his standing policies that his players will be running suicides if they respond to the officials or try to, debate or hold court on the basketball court. Not their place, not that. And also with the parents.
Yep.
But once again, it's tough for a coach to try to police the parents in the stands. But there are clear lines that are going further and further out of the bounds of what's normal. Profanity, and that's, once again, anytime I'm dealing with like younger officials in age,
mm-hmm.
because there's some really sharp officials that are, in their early 30s that are high school state championships, elected, appointed, that do a fantastic job. But those guys are far and few between. It's more like guys, I worked the other day with a guy that's 50 years old and it's his first year officiating.
Yep.
And it just takes a minute to, get yourself used to having several things come at you at once, and then adjudicating the moment and making a decision and keeping the temperature of the gym, at a cool
mm-hmm.
while calling the game and trying to get the calls right. And so, yeah, absolutely. But I was just reading a statistic also, Justin, that I looked up prior to this, and it's amazing. As of April 22nd, it said 60% of officials surveyed in 2020 said they're quitting because of verbal abuse from parents and fans.
Yeah. And honestly,
60%.
That number sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't shock me at all because of like you said, the verbal abuse that comes with that job. And that is a job, especially at the highest level of a game that is so fast, and bang bang calls. 50% of the player or 50% of the people are going to think it's wrong at any given time, and it's not an easy thing to do.
And that is absolutely right. And I'll remind people, which once again, I consider myself, and I know LeBron has always said this, is that I consider myself a student of this game only. I don't do any other sports. But when the University of Virginia for the national championship, when they won that year, were playing Auburn in the semifinals, and in the backcourt, the guy dribbled off his foot. I looked at my wife and I told her as it was happening and thought Charles Barkley would go nuts as a result of it because he's an Auburn alumni. And he was, in the studio in New York. And Jim Nance, and at those highest levels in the semifinals where Auburn clearly lost as a result of that double dribble, or that travel call where the guy dribbled off his foot from Virginia. And it took a minute for people to process it and then start breaking it down, and then Monday morning quarterback, and then realize, let's go to the officials in New York to see. We don't even have that in middle school.
Right.
And in middle school, it's $35, Justin. So we're not talking about the highest levels. These people are putting themselves in harm's way, and a death occurred, and somebody's getting paid $35 to officiate a basketball game.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like the work that you have to do to become an official, the time it takes to get to the game, to drive home from the game, to actually officiate the game and do all that stuff, you're not making a ton of money. And for people to be coming at you is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I've had a construction company now. My list goes on for the last 18 years. And, we have another house in Florida. So I stay extremely busy. And it's a labor of love. And it's certainly, it barely pays for the uniforms and the travel, because sometimes I'm going all the way down to Ashland County.
Yeah.
And from Summit County to do, games like Northwestern and Hillsdale. And, so you're exactly right about that. But I know there's people who are going to say that, there are officials that aren't as strong, and that is true. But it is a thankless situation where sometimes older people are officiating, or whatever their experience is. It has to be addressed from multiple angles, and that's in training officials, how officiating is looked at. Because me personally, and this is my 8th year, like I said, and being around the game for 40 years, is that I don't distinguish between middle school and high school. They work hard, and a lot of these parents and coaches go and take it upon themselves to do AAU, and they put a lot of work and effort, as I did with my son at 3rd grade, who's now 35. And we sought out higher competitive AAU basketball, and I didn't want to see an older official come out there and act as though there was somehow different from, like meaningful high school, JV and high school basketball.
Right.
There's not. Yes, you distinguish between travel calls and have to find a sweet spot and a rhythm. And that's something you learn over experience and time. But once again, along with that, is that you have to, as an official, you have to have a trigger that in your mind, and some guys are still finding that out too, and they're quick to call a technical or, eject somebody from the gym, and, out of a panic, rather than, somehow finding a rhythm, like I like to call it, where your reputation gets around and people realize that, you're no nonsense, you're going to call the game, and you're going to do it in the best possible way. But you're going to have a line where if they want to cross that, then we'll handle it.
No doubt. And, and I think, no one's out to get a kid officiating or this and that. Some people like to come up with their conspiracy theories. Oh, this guy went to this school, or this girl graduated from here. She's alumni. She's helping that. Like, come on, get out of here. You guys are doing the best. You guys and girls are doing the best of your ability. And like I said, at any given call, 50-50, 50% of the people are going to be happy, 50% of the people are going to be mad, and it is what it is, And
not only that, Justin, but take one step further. And like I say, my wife played college basketball at Walsh University. She played in high school. She has coached at the high school level. And as we talk about it after the fact, and she follows me around, she listens in the stands. Many, many times, just like when I was in law enforcement, people are misguided, and many times they're flat out wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
As far as that's for travel. Well, no, if they don't roll over, they can actually slide the full length of the court with the basketball, and it's not a travel.
No doubt.
And so that adds to the equation where people, and, then you find ways, just like when I was a police officer, to within respect, and to keep yourself sane. I might motion it, but I intentionally don't want to know, who the players are, or where they're from, or, even look in the stands to identify until they catch my attention. And then once they've gone to the length of catching my attention, well, now I'm looking for the athletic director, site director, and, well, we're just going to nip that in the bud and, cut the head off the snake and send you out to the parking lot.
No doubt. Well, Warren, I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for coming on, and taking some of your time out to, share some of your experiences and this is a game, I'm a former basketball coach as well. It's a game I love. But
Sure.
it's a game that needs to be respected as well. And so
Yes,
I'm going to ask you for one final thought as we kind of head into tournament season here, especially at the high school level in mid-February. Give a message out there to all the parents and players and spectators and friends of people that might be out in the stands that might give them a message that you think might an official would want to share with them as they head out to a game, maybe tonight or this weekend or whatever it might be.
Sure. And I think for me personally, in my life's experience at my age of 56 and throughout the things I've seen, it's similar to being a police officer, is that there's a time and a place.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a comment that's going to incite or it becomes so inflammatory, or you find yourself wanting to key in and make it personal, like once again, Justin, one of my trigger words is the word you. When you're directing and getting so personal that you want to direct it to a person, whether it be heckling or, so my message is really think about that. And I'm happy to hear at OHSAA and Denny Morris and the people that run this for the state of Ohio is that proper preparation, like we said in the Marine Corps, because there'll be law enforcement there to see that you have now crossed over and hopefully they'll swiftly take action. So don't be that guy. Don't be that lady, that's just out of control, because like I like to say sometimes, mental health is a real issue.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are living vicariously through their children. They're coming out there and just lose all reality at a sporting event is how to conduct themselves. So don't be that person.
No.
And certainly, just unthinkable of death has occurred. And just keep in mind of, what, this is what happens. And just think of that family and the criminal, just follow along in the next, year to 2 years and ask yourself, wonder whatever happened to all those people in Vermont. And you'll come to find out life-changing and just nothing good comes of any of that.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, Warren, again, thank you so much. We appreciate, well, first of all, thank you for your service, and thank you, the service for the country, and thank you for the service on the court that you provide, because we need more good officials out there, and we just need good people out there, and it's a tough job. And you've been obviously very well prepared, and at the end of the day, it's basketball. It's a sport we all love, and respect the game, people. So that's my message.
You for having me, Justin.
Absolutely. And Warren, we appreciate you having us, you calling in, and you got an open invite anytime you want to get anything off your chest too. So
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job. I will listen along.
All right. Thanks, Warren. Have a great day and good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So again, Warren Capps, OHSAA official, wanted to share, some of his thoughts and some of his experiences. And I mean, you can't get more prepared for pretty much any job than being a Marine and being in the military. So Warren takes his police background, his military background, takes it to the basketball court, and does a nice job there. So again, thanks to Warren for coming on. So that was the lead portion of our show. We are now going to get into, a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of the sports world here. So let's start. I'm actually going to start with basketball, and then we're going to finish with football, because football is kind of like the meat. So we're going to start with the appetizers, and that's basketball. And we got to start with this guy. And I mean, this is the 330 Sports Show. This guy's right up the road in Akron, now a Los Angeles Laker, but LeBron James. Now you can probably say, if you didn't think he was the GOAT before, he is probably the greatest of all time now. The picture you see on screen, if you're watching, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar handing LeBron James the basketball, in which he broke the record the other night, 38,390 points. And I have some cool numbers that go along with this, and it's going to focus on the number 38. So this is just pretty cool. So I want to give credit to The Athletic, because I read a good story on there, and they they shared a lot of good information. So look at this. LeBron James is now 38 years old. Okay. He broke the scoring record with a jump shot, and that put him at 38,388 points, 38-38-8. He also broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record, which had stood for 38 years. And on Tuesday night, he broke the record. He finished with 38 points. So I mean, very interesting there. It's cool just how, like, I'm a numbers guy, so I just like how numbers work like that sometimes. So very cool. I unfortunately, though, Joe, lost a little bit of money because I bet that he would break the record tonight. I didn't think he was going to get there on Tuesday. So,
See, you'd think that Justin has enough sway that he could have made a couple calls and hooked that up, but
I didn't get one of the 200 credentials to the Staples Center on Tuesday night. If I would have known he was dressed in all black, heading in there with his gold chain, he had all his family and friends and high school teammates and coaches and all that stuff there. If I would have known that ahead of time, like as Adam Sandler would have said, something that could have been brought to my attention yesterday. So, but a really cool thing for LeBron. So something with him and Kareem. Kareem obviously did not play college basketball. He played 4 years at UCLA. However, LeBron played in about 150 less games than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to get to that record, breaking that record. Now, here was the shot that broke the record. Now, if you look in the background, Joe, if you look in the background of that picture, what do you see?
The fans.
And what are those fans doing?
I don't know, sleeping.
They all had their cell phones in front of their face.
Really?
All of them, every single one. It's probably a tough image to see, except for if you see the white-haired gentleman towards the bottom of the screen
Bernie
down
Sanders
here.
Looking guy.
That is, and you know who that guy is?
Who is he?
That is Phil Knight, and you know what he owns?
Oh.
He owns Nike. So he is the only guy I can see in that picture that does not have a cell phone.
He looks 100 years old. Does he even have a cell phone?
I'm sure he owns a few cell phones.
He has his scratch pad. He's trying to picture that shot.
So to juxtapose that with Michael Jordan's final shot, look at the difference. And I'm talking, we're talking like, 25 years or so here, but no one in the, no phones weren't a widely big thing there, but and that's Salt Lake City versus Los Angeles. So but that's game 6 of the NBA Finals versus LeBron on Tuesday night. Everyone having their phone out versus no one having a phone. Just shows a little bit of the difference in society today. So I thought that was kind of a interesting picture. So I thought I would share that. So LeBron, again, season 19, age 38, been in the NBA half of his life. 38,390 points. 4th all-time in assists, 32nd all-time in rebounds. This season, over 30 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, 7 assists per game. And he is one of 4 players in the history of the NBA to win an NBA title with 3 separate franchises. So pretty good stuff out of LeBron. And here's kind of a big breakdown of LeBron. I did some research here. Billy, I see you put Jordan as the GOAT. I'm going to respectfully disagree. And I am a kid, or I was a kid that grew up in the Michael Jordan era. I loved Michael Jordan. I loved the Cavs, and I only rooted against Michael Jordan when the Cavs were playing him. But I loved Michael Jordan. But watching everything LeBron can do, I think LeBron's better. And respectfully, I say that because they're totally different players in totally different eras. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with Billy on that one. But let's take a look at some of LeBron's numbers on this. He's number 1 in points now all time, number 3 all time in minutes, which, again, that shows you a skill that most people don't even think about is longevity. I mean, you got to be healthy. You got to be on the court to score those points. So longevity, health is a huge thing. Threes made, he's number 8 all time, number 4 all time in assists, number 11 all time in games played, number 5 in points per game all time. He has made 18 all NBA teams, which means 13 times he was on the first team, which means you're a top 5 player in the league. 3 second teams, which means you're a top 10 player, and 2 third teams, which means you're a top 15 player. And then LeBron in the playoffs, number 1 in games, minutes, and points scored. He's number 6 in points per game in the playoffs, number 3 in 3-pointers. He has 4 NBA titles, and he is number 1 all-time in playoff wins with 174. If you do the math on that, 174, 81 games in a regular season. So you're talking over 2 full seasons of basketball in just wins for LeBron in the playoffs. So, just some great stuff there. And, whether it's Jordan or whether it's LeBron, I think at the very end of the day, you can probably all agree that it's 1A and 1B. If you're having the Jordan LeBron debate. So Joe, I know you're not a huge basketball guy, but both of these guys, Jordan, LeBron, we're similar age, so you grew up hearing about Michael Jordan and obviously know LeBron. If you could pick or had to pick one of those two guys in their prime, who would you pick?
I have to pick one.
If you have to.
I just think that both of them contributed to the sport of basketball so much in their own right. I think if I'm picking one for my all-star team, I'm going with Jordan.
Okay.
I mean, I love LeBron.
Yeah,
I think he's athletic. He's a freak, but I just like Jordan's presence.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Jordan probably has on LeBron is like that killer instinct and that like F you attitude. Like I remember that story of him like punching Steve Kerr, his teammate, in the face at practice because he didn't like the way things Billy likes Joe more than me. So that's respect, tip of the cap. But very understandable and totally get it. But LeBron has developed, I think, more of that killer instinct, but I think Kobe Bryant is more of a comparison to Michael Jordan than LeBron. I think LeBron's more of a distributor, and it's weird to say LeBron is not as known for his scoring as he is his passing, his rebounding, his all-around game, whereas Michael Jordan was like a deadly scorer. So
at the end of the day, when we elect the greatest of all time, what do you have at the end of the day? What's the pursuit here?
It's just a raging debate,
And it makes people hate each other.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Billy would have a slap.
Well, no, I respect Billy and I respect Michael Jordan. And like I said, Michael Jordan, it's so weird being a Cavs fan, but Michael Jordan was my favorite player growing up because I just loved the way he played, and everybody, wanted to emulate and be Michael Jordan. No one could get there, obviously, but everyone wanted to be like Mike, like those commercials. It's,
Well, the greatest of all time could be plural. So let's elect both of them.
Why not?
They're both the greatest of all
time.
time.
At the very least, they're going on your Mount Rushmore, your starting 5. Jordan's your 2. LeBron's your 3 or 4 or whatever position you want to say he is. So.
What really impresses me, and when you have a basketball player like Spud Webb or Muggsy Bogues who are at a disadvantage, you scale their numbers up, and they might compete with the numbers that they're
you're
half scale.
Joe, you're relating to Spud Webb and Muggsy Bogues. Why?
The stature is similar.
I mean, it's weird to think though, like, because I watch some NBA games too, or I watch a lot of NBA, and I see a guy like Kyrie Irving or Donovan Mitchell, and I'm like, man, they just look, they don't look huge out there, and they're bigger than me. You know what I mean? It's just like, it just shows you like the mammoth human beings these guys are, and I would put basketball players at that level as probably the alpha athlete in any sport, just because they're big, they're strong, they're fast, and they're skilled as well.
So if you pick up a basketball player and put them in a different sport, you think that they could match performance? And
I think it would depend on body type and personality and size and stuff. Like LeBron was at one point the number 1 high school football recruit in the state of Ohio at like wide receiver or tight end. And, he would have dominated probably. Would he have been the same football player as basketball player? No way. But they do that comparison in boxing and MMA, where they say if you put a boxer and teach him the skills in MMA, who would do better, MMA to boxing or boxing to MMA? So if you do the same thing with a basketball player, like what sport do you think that they would be likely? Like Jordan in baseball, like that was not a fair thing at all. Like it's not an athletic type of sport. You know? Right. Well, I think I know Billy's a baseball guy. Billy would disagree that baseball players are athletes too. They're just not okay. And no, and there's some absolute freak athletes in every sport. Like, I'm not saying baseball players are less athletic than basketball players. I'm just saying it as a global sense, basketball players are probably more supreme than football, baseball, hockey, whatever it might be.
If you take a fat guy, right, and you plop him in a sport, right?
Sure.
He's not going to do well in basketball, but he could be an Albert Bell, right? He could be
possibly. Well, look at Babe Ruth. I mean, for God's sake,
for sure.
the guy would drink a 6-pack before the game and be hungover the night before.
That's
and
right. And
he's one of the greatest hitters of all time. Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of people and that's maybe a skill in itself that a lot of people
athleticism
can't.
Isn't their primary part of your talent, right?
Skill.
It's more skill.
Skill. Yeah, for sure. And hitting a baseball might be the hardest thing to do in all of sports. So, I mean, you can send the greatest athlete up to the plate and they might not be able to make contact because that's a huge skill. So,
Jordan.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who was probably like a 200 or less hitter. So, well, great points. All right. Real quick touching on the Cavs and some YSU hoops before we get to the Super Bowl stuff. So did you know 1997, speaking of LeBron James, 97-98 was the last time the Cleveland Cavaliers made the playoffs without LeBron James on the roster. So we're talking 26 years, 25 years of no playoffs for the Cavs without LeBron. Now, obviously, they made the playoffs 11 plus times with LeBron on the roster. So just that's a pretty interesting stat there. So we're talking way back to that's post Mark Price era, but like I'm trying to think who would have even been on that team. Zydrunas Ilgauskas probably and some others, but that's a very interesting thought there. So Cavs get another big win last night, go to 23-6 at home, 35-22 overall. They are second in the Central, fourth in the Eastern Conference. They have won 25 games by double-digit points, which is the most in all the NBA. A quick look at the Eastern Conference. The Cavs sit in fourth, only one game back of the Philadelphia 76ers for the third seed. They are a game and a half up on the Brooklyn Nets, who the Brooklyn Nets went from title contender to clearing house. They've traded Kevin Durant. They have traded Kyrie Irving in the last 2 days, and they are gutting that team. Now, they're going to have a lot of draft picks, but draft picks do not equal wins for a long time. And football and basketball draft capital is not always equal. So the Cavs are, I would say, a guaranteed, it's hard to guarantee anything, but have a very good chance to be a top 4 seed and host a first round tournament playoff game right now if the playoffs would start. So they will play tomorrow night, only 4 more games until the All-Star break. So YSU basketball, men and women will both play 2 games this weekend, and get out and watch YSU. The men right now, unfortunately, they're going to be out of town for both games this weekend, Friday at Fort Wayne in Indiana, but Sunday, just a quick drive up to Cleveland. They play Cleveland State, but the men 13-11 right now in the Horizon League, first place in conference. YSU has never made the NCAA tournament since being a Division I basketball team in 1981. I was born in 1981. And so YSU has not made the tournament as long as I've been alive. I would love to see that. Coach Calhoun, and they have a fun team. They get up and down and run, and they are just an efficient offensive team. They can shoot the 3. They get to the hoop. They are a high flying team too, a lot of dunks. So they play an entertaining brand of basketball. So get out and watch YSU if you're able to, and support the Penguins and support Youngstown State right down the road here, and playing some great basketball. Now, on the women's side of things, they've struggled a little bit of late, but they are still third place in conference, not too far out of, I think they're 2 games back of being in first place, led by John Barnes. Obviously, you guys know we've had Malia on the show, Magestro. They're led by a really good core group of ladies. They can shoot the 3-ball like crazy. And this weekend, they will be home to host 2 separate games this weekend versus Oakland and Detroit. So both very winnable games for the Lady Penguins. Get out and support them while you can. And here's an amazing stat. 30 years. It has been 30 years since the Yukon women have lost back-to-back games. That has not happened since 1993. So last night they lost, and before that they lost to number 1 South Carolina. So pretty remarkable stat there. Like, imagine going 30 years and not losing back-to-back games. So very, very impressive stuff. All right, Joe, you ready to get into some football stuff?
Football.
Okay.
That's still going on?
Well, we got at least one more game.
One more game?
Like the Pro Bowl, I didn't watch any of that. None of it. I saw Myles Garrett was like limping off the field with a toe injury last week. Apparently he broke a toe or stubbed a toe in some like stupid obstacle course thing. It's like, just get rid of the Pro Bowl completely. I know it gets eyes on it and it's football, I guess, but
it was freaking weird.
I
mean, I was looking forward to the skills challenge, but they came up with some weird stuff.
Like, wasn't there? I saw something with like water balloons and something. They were trying to like recreate the dunk contest with like diving into a swimming pool and making these catches. It just doesn't translate.
Yeah. I think the most interesting one I watched was they had they had some kickers that were playing tic-tac-toe and they had to kick and hit a tic-tac-toe board.
Okay.
So that kind of precision kicking we didn't get to see from the Cleveland Browns at all this year.
No, not so much.
Or Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah. Too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon still way too soon. Joe,
yes, sir.
Did you ever like, and your wife's an elementary teacher. I used to be an elementary teacher. Do you remember those wheeled in TVs they used to have on the carts?
Yeah.
I mean, so you've obviously been in a classroom where that's happened. Did you realize every single time that happened, your teacher was hungover?
I didn't realize that. No.
Not seriously, but how many? Well, they're probably not on carts anymore, but how many movies are going to be shown in classrooms on Monday, the day after the Super Bowl? What are your thoughts on that?
Lots of watching The Outsiders or Hamlet.
Or if you're in elementary school, maybe Bill Nye the Science Guy or stuff like that.
So what do they wheel out now? Like a flat screen? Like
a lot of elementary schools now have those. I don't know what the actual name is, but it's basically a smart board kind of, but it can be hooked up to Wi-Fi or whatever. Or like my last year in the classroom a few years ago, I had a flat screen mounted to the wall, and I would just connect that with my Apple TV or whatever it might be, or mirror it to my computer screen, stuff like that. So not the same, but I always love the Jack Black quote from School of Rock, where the kid's like, he's like, I'm hungover, and he's like, does anyone know what that means? The kid's like, you're drunk. He's like, no, I was drunk yesterday. I just such a good quote. So good. But if you see any teachers maybe a little slower on Monday, probably watching the Super Bowl. Yep. So Super Bowl is set. We got the Chiefs and the Eagles. So we're going to get into some of the bets and stuff here in a minute.
So do you have any Super Bowl things that you do? Anything special, or you just watch the game?
You know what? Being a Browns fan, I've never really loved the Super Bowl as much as some other people, like Steeler fans or whatever. But I don't have a routine. Every now and then there'll be a Super Bowl party and we'll go to that. I generally will buy a few blocks in a block poll or something and try to get some numbers. Generally food is, I think today's National Pizza Day, by the way. So shout out to Grace and Jeremy with Youngstown Pizza Reviews. I think pizza is kind of a tradition. Okay. Pizza and wings, maybe. Maybe try to eat a little healthy in between. There's always those carrot sticks around and stuff like celery. Yeah, but I would say food. Obviously, the game's going to be on. the commercials are kind of cool.
You want to make a prediction about the commercial that everybody's going to be talking about? What do you think? What industry or what type of product is going to be?
And you remember what it was last year?
Wasn't that Bitcoin one?
It was. It was. Yeah. It was. And I think I don't know if they're still in business or not, but it was crypto, I believe.
Coinbase,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So crypto was the big thing last year. What do you want to? I'll let you, since that's your question. So I'm gonna just bounce that back to you first, and then I'll answer.
So I think it's going to be like, I know those emotional ones were the ones that were popular. So I think, let's see, it's going to be a car commercial that pulls at the heartstrings is going to be the big one.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna say generically on this, but I think movies are making a big comeback. I'm gonna say there's gonna be a lot of movie trailers.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even really know what's coming out in the near future, but they promote stuff from now until like Christmas or Thanksgiving. So the Super Bowl, you got all eyes watching, and if you can get like people's interest peaked, on that game, they're like, oh, then that's in the back of their mind. And when it comes out in July or June or whatever, they're like, hey, that looks cool. Let's go see that. So I'm going to say movies make a big comeback, and some sort of, whether it's in the theater or streaming, I'm going to say that's my big Super Bowl commercial this year.
What do you think the most impactful or memorable Super Bowl commercial of all time was that you can remember or know about?
Ooh, that's a good one. I always thought like the Budweiser ones are always memorable because there's always like horses and dogs and animals and stuff. I'm going to say the one that made me laugh the most was kind of a more recent one. It was a Doritos one where the kid says to enter his time machine, you got to give him a bag of Doritos. He goes in and shakes it. And then all of a sudden, like an old man yells at the kid, tells him to get off his lawn. And the guy walks out and he's like, you've aged. He actually thought he time traveled. So I like that one. How about you? Do you have a favorite one?
Honestly, the Apple commercial from 1984 was probably the biggest one.
1984.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was sort of like it was sort of like George Orwell, and the lady comes out with the hammer and smashes the big screen. So it's probably the most famous Super Bowl commercial.
Okay. All right. Very good. So Joe and I will, we'll definitely be watching, and I think the commercials will be interesting to see what they are. So the lines, the Eagles are 1.5 point favorites currently. So you'd have to put $110 up to win 100. The total is 50.5 right now. Do you have any thoughts on either the Eagles being the favorites at 1.5 or Chiefs being underdogs at 1.5 and the total at 50.5?
I think it's a coin flip. So that's an accurate.
By the way, the coin flip minus 104.
All
Heads or tails. Sorry, no, go ahead.
But it's going to be a slugfest. So
okay.
I'm taking the over.
Okay.
And I don't even have a pick on this one. Honestly.
Okay. I really like the Eagles in this game. I don't really have a reason, except I think their defense is excellent. I think Patrick Mahomes is still a little bit banged up. He's probably a lot healthier than he was 2 weeks ago. And I think the Chiefs' offensive line isn't as good as people give it credit for. Philadelphia has not played a lot of great quarterbacks this year, but their defense is still excellent. And the Chiefs don't have those big time weapons that, the Tyreek Hill. They do have Travis Kelce, but they're kind of like ragtag bunch at receiver. So I'm interested to see what they do. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, you got a shot. So I don't know. But I like the Eagles to win. I think they actually would be higher favorites if Patrick Mahomes was not the quarterback on the other side. So just my opinion on that. So, couple storylines from the game. You got the Kelce brothers playing. You got Travis as the Chiefs tight end. You got Jason as the center for the Eagles. Yeah.
I didn't know there were two Kelce's. I thought it was the same guy and he got traded. I really did. I thought he played for the Chiefs for a while. And then I was like, oh, Philadelphia must have traded that.
Yeah,
I had no idea there were two of them.
I mean, the size difference is not as big as you would think, being a center and a tight end. Travis Kelce's a big dude playing tight end, but they are both really, really good players. Very, very skilled and talented and elite players at both of their levels, and both from Cleveland, by the way. So another little Cleveland tie to the Super Bowl, unfortunately not involving the Browns. Another storyline from this game, this is the Andy Reid Bowl. He is the all-time winningest coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is, I believe, this is interesting, 1 win short of being Kansas City's all-time leading coach. So to beat his old team and would make him his new team's leading all-time winningest coach. So that's some interesting stuff.
Let me guess, the greatest of all time.
No. He's up there. He's up there, but he's no. I mean, not even the greatest in the NFL right now. You still got Belichick. You could even say Mike Tomlin.
I want to start the debate. Just if we need some confrontation.
Yeah.
Him against Belichick. I mean,
well, I feel like nothing gets the pot stirred as much as LeBron and Michael Jordan. Like, for that really gets people's blood flowing for whatever reason. But Andy Reid not in the same level as as Belichick, or I don't know. You could throw a few coaches in there too, but right. And if you're throwing in all the coaches of all time, then definitely no. So another storyline from this game, the first matchup, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, which will feature 2 black starting quarterbacks in NFL history. So kind of a cool note there. Patrick Mahomes played at Texas Tech. Jalen Hurts initially at Alabama, transfers to Oklahoma. So good stuff there. I will be rooting for Travis Kelce in particular because I put in a prop bet that was plus 900 before the playoffs started. Travis Kelce is currently 4th, about 40 yards behind the leading receiver in all the playoffs. And if he is the leading receiver, it pays 9-1. So I'll be rooting for him. But he is the 2nd leading receiver all time in the NFL playoffs, which is pretty crazy, behind Jerry Rice. So pretty impressive stuff there. And then this shows you how mirrored these two teams are. If you look at it, the Chiefs and the Eagles this year, both 16-3. They've both scored exactly 546 points. They both have 6 All-Pros, including a Kelce brother and their quarterback. And they are both the number 1 seed in their conference. So that's some pretty cool stuff right there. And then we're going to get into prop bets here for about 5 minutes before we close out the show. But I saw this. I think this was from Fox. But it said the winner of the coin toss has lost the last 8 Super Bowls. That's a really hard thing to do. If you flip a coin 8 times, first of all, and then knowing that outcome results, I mean, it doesn't guarantee a loss. It's just, it's coincidence, but that's a really interesting thing right there.
So I don't know. If you watch them call heads, they're trying not to win the coin toss.
Exactly. Yeah. So if they're calling heads, they want to win the game because they know tails never fails.
That's right.
Ever. Not once. Ever. All right. So let's go to some fun props here, Joe, and feel free to, if you can think of any in the meantime, let me know. So the coin toss, -104 heads, -104 tails. So Vegas is going to guarantee itself a win because you got to put up $104 if you want to win 100 on that.
Bad bet. Don't do it.
And if you're going to do it, what should people bet on?
Tails. It never fails.
Never. It has never once failed a tail. Never. Not once. All right. Travis Kelce. This is from Brett Franklin. Travis Kelce, first and last touchdown, plus 4,700. So you put up 100. Travis Kelce scores the first touchdown and the last touchdown. You win $4,700.
Those are good odds. I'll take that.
Yeah,
bet.
It's not. I mean, throw $10 on it, and you win 470. If that's more in your price range, whatever it might be. Any kicky. So a little misspelling there. Any kick to hit the upright or crossbar, plus 450. That's interesting.
Don't take that bet. You don't see that very
much. I don't like that one. But when it says any kick, I didn't look into this more. Could that be the kickoff? Sure. I mean, that's a kick, right? Yeah. Any kick. So I don't know.
Kicky, though.
Any kicky.
Any kicky to hit.
Be careful.
The kick. Bar you.
Don't be too tricky. Oh man. How about this? You like Joe Burrow? You want to place a bet on Joe Burrow still? he is still plus 600 to have the most passing yards. I believe Patrick Mahomes is about 200 yards away from him. So if Patrick Mahomes throws for less than 200 yards, Joe Burrow would be the leading passing leader in the playoffs. So 6-1, maybe Mahomes sprains that ankle again. Maybe he doesn't play too much. That's an interesting bet right there. A bet I like, I don't have a number on it right now because it's been fluid, is Jalen Hurts rushing attempts. He rushes the ball, I believe it's about 12 times a game. And I think the number I saw was 11.5 for rushing attempts. That's a bet I like. So I'm throwing a few bucks on that one. Total sacks by both teams, 5.5. What do you think about that one, Joe? 5.5 sacks by both teams combined.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. And I think, because I think Philadelphia is going to get after, and then you got Kansas City has a pretty solid defensive line too. Chris Jones. So I like the idea of 5.5 sacks, bet the over in that one. The rookie running back Pacheco, I like the rushing and receiving yards combination bet. I think that's a good one. This is a really interesting one. Speaking of Kelsey brothers, the Travis Kelce receiving yards is minus 6.5 versus his brother snaps. Now, remember, his brother is the center. So that basically means any play Philadelphia has the ball on offense, you count for a snap. Now, not punts, not kickoffs, not stuff like that, but any Jason Kelce snap counts towards his total. And then you add up Travis Kelce's. Now, a lot of teams, especially if they're high flying, move the ball a lot, will snap the ball around 70 times. So you're basically saying, is Travis Kelce going to have 60 or more receiving yards? And if you like that, that's a good bet to take.
I like that bet.
Okay. So that's another good one. Here's another one. Speaking of LeBron, speaking of the Super Bowl, LeBron James points, assists, and rebounds versus Jalen Hurts rushing yards. And LeBron, we did his numbers earlier. He's about 37-7. So that's what, 44 total. So if you like Jalen Hurts to rush the ball for 44 or more yards, you might want to take the over or take LeBron. It's kind of an either or on that one. So we'll see. You have a preference on that one?
Well, if he takes off 12 or 15 times in that game, very doable.
That's true. That's true. And I'd have to look into that one more too and see if they account for sack yardage or how that works. But I think that's an interesting one. A big golf tournament going on this weekend, the Waste Management Phoenix Open round 4, hole 16, which is like the biggest party hole in all of golf, is minus 1.5 for birdies on that round 4. Hole 16 versus Super Bowl first quarter points. I have no idea how difficult that hole is. Par 3s, I believe, are very difficult on that course. So I'm going to say Super Bowl first quarter points is going to take that one. That's just my opinion. I don't know. This one, I thought this one was great. Just a couple more here before we close out. The length of the game's first touchdown, 6.5 yards. So 6.5 yards over or under. 53.3% of both teams' 120 combined touchdowns were under. So that might be something you lean under if your betting app has that bet. And the average national anthem over the last 31 years is 1 minute and 56 seconds. 1 minute and 56 seconds is the average time. I don't have the updated time that they've done. I believe it's a country singer that's singing it.
Country singers are usually more upbeat, not as slow, so I'm going with the under.
You're going with the under? Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't have a pick on that one yet because I want to see the time. But if they put it at 156.5, I'm gonna go with you on the under. And then Rihanna's first song, had to throw in a little Super Bowl halftime, was Diamond. She's got a bunch, Umbrella, whatever you want to do. But plus 220 was the best odds, I guess you could say, for her first song. So we shall see. What are you looking forward to this weekend? Anything with the Super Bowl?
No, just going to be a passive spectator and hang out with friends, and whoever wins, I'm cool with.
And one of these years, let's just get a Browns even appearance in the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, come on. We've
like during the halftime show or what?
I don't know. I know. I guarantee the Browns will at least have a player there in Arizona, but can we get all 53 of them to the game one time and like maybe play in it? You know, it's a great idea, isn't it?
Ask.
So no. So yeah. That's it. So any Super Bowl thoughts, any LeBron thoughts, any officiating thoughts, share them with us. But appreciate you guys for watching. I want to thank Warren Capps, official, for joining us earlier. If you didn't get a chance to hear that, go back and listen. He gives a great perspective on being formerly in the military and now how that translates to officiating on the court. And again, be respectful of the games, especially when you're at a youth sporting event. You know, remember, those kids are watching you. You're a role model. Be a good person for them, and they will then in turn be a good person in the future for their future next generation. But again, appreciate you guys all watching the 330 Sports Show on Youngstown Studio. Everyone have a great weekend. I'm going to just say I love Patrick Mahomes, but I'm going to just say go Eagles because I placed the bet on him. So we'll just say that. For Joe, I'm Justin. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would